Hi, welcome back to the Man Shed, and this week and next week I'm going to be talking about copyright. This week I'm going to talk about copyright and the photographer, and next week I'm going to talk about copyright and the model. So before we do that, I just want to talk about the Film Photo Academy site, so filmphotoacademy.com. Loads of really good information on there, continually publishing more hints, tips, advice, critiques, all sorts on the blog. So please noodle over there, have a good look round. Okay, so copyright. First of all, let me pre-state all this. What I'm going to talk about essentially is UK copyright, and that I'm also not a lawyer. But what I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty sure is sound. So first of all, what is copyright? Copyright essentially says if you are the creator of a piece of work, whether that's written, music, painting, photograph, whatever, you are the owner of that work, and you can decide who has rights to reproduce that, whether that's electronically or in print or any other means. So if you are the creator, you own it, you decide, you control who reproduces that. You may let people reproduce it for free, you may let people reproduce it after paying you a fee, but either way it's in your control. Copyright lasts for 70 years after the death of the creator. So flip that the other way round, it means that you had to have died by 1940 in order for your images to be in public use now. So pretty much all of us as photographers, essentially when we click the shutter, we have created an image, or we own it. We own it automatically. There is no need to register it. You may want to register it, or the easy way is you burn them on a CD, you post it to yourself, you don't open the envelope. So there's a postmark on the envelope and a CD inside that says, but you don't need to do that. Okay, since most photographers are freelance, that's the situation. There's a slight wrinkle. If you are an employee of a company, then the company owns anything that you photograph on their behalf. I'll be honest, there's an odd situation here, is I'm not sure if you employ a second shooter just casually, I'm not sure what the issue there. Classic one is a wedding photographer has a second shooter, they pay them for a couple of hours for that wedding shoot. I'm pretty sure that the guy who's paying is the one who owns the copyright, but I can't swear to that. Okay, so, but for most of us, we're the guys with the camera, we press the button, we own it. Okay, so that's who owns it, that's what it means. Nobody has rights to reproduce your images unless you say so. Okay, but what I do want to do is I want to talk about some of the misunderstandings around copyright that kind of lead us into some sticky areas, and particularly in the misuse of copyright and so on. So the first one is, not an unreasonable assumption is, I'm a buyer, I've commissioned you, the photographer, to take these pictures, don't I own the copyright? No. In general, I am not your employee, you do not own the copyright. And I'll give you a real good, strong example of that. A couple of years back, I photographed the wedding of Olivier Azam. He's a French rugby player, plays for France, plays for Gloucester Rugby Club as their hooker. Now I'm pretty sure there was probably a value of those images to the French equivalent of hello or whatever, hello or something. Morally, I did not do anything with those images, that would have been entirely inappropriate, but legally it would have been entirely within my rights to have done so. But hang on, those pictures are of me, don't I get any say in this? No. Full stop, you don't. The photographer has the copyright. There was an issue recently about people photographing houses, particularly that you've probably seen all the stuff about Google Street Maps photographing houses. A couple of years back, English Heritage got local photographers to photograph all the local listed buildings, and understandably a lot of homeowners were upset that people were allowed to photograph their house. But that is exactly the way it works. It's slightly off topic from copyright, but basically if you are standing in a public space, Anything you can see, you can photograph, and you own the copyright on. And that's partly why paparazzi people get away with it. They can photograph a celebrity in their own home even, as long as they are on public property. Some other stuff. Oh, I saw this picture on the web, so that means it's free to use. No, it doesn't. Absolutely not. It's an old picture. I don't care. It's got to be really old, and don't forget, 70 years from the death of the creator. So that probably means some of the very early photographs taken in the 1880s probably is, you know, the guys who took them are dead, and copyright has probably expired. But I'll go back to this thing, the creator has to have died in 1940 in order for the images to be out of copyright in 2010. There's a couple of places where you do get some free use. Educational materials and review, they qualify as fair use, but then you can only use a small portion of the work. So for example, you can't photocopy an entire book and claim it's for use educationally. Photographically though, it probably does mean you can reproduce an image to talk about it into context of a review of, say, of a photographer's body of work, or you could use the image in the context of education to talk about a particular photograph. I don't know who took it, the Orphan works issue. Parliament recently put through a whole bill on copyrights, of which one of the key issues for photographers was a clause that said, basically, if you'd spent a little bit of time trying to find out who created a photograph and failed, then you could go ahead and use it. Quite rightly and thankfully, Parliament threw that bit out. So the fact that you don't know who created the photograph does not give you carte blanche to use that photograph. A couple of odd bits. As a photographer, if you've sold a photograph to a magazine, or given a magazine or a publisher rights to use an image, they don't have to credit you for use of that image. Some publishers will, some publishers won't. Obviously it'd be nice if they did, but they don't have to. Okay, so I just want to talk about photographers abusing copyright themselves, and here's the classic. Photographers get very upset about other people using their photos without permission, yet they'll happily use music for their slideshows without permission in the same way around. I think that photographers have a bit of an obligation here. If we're going to be upset about people abusing our copyright, we have to be aware about our misuse of other people's copyright. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick recap then. Pretty much, if you took the photo, you press the shutter, you are the owner of copyright. You have entire control over who has right to reproduce that photograph. You can decide whether you want to be paid, whether you want to give it away for free, but you have to grant your permission before anybody else can use your photographs. And finally, you do not have to do anything to assert copyright. Once you have taken the picture, you are the owner, full stop. Okay, so next week I'm going to talk about copyright and the model, which is kind of complete the reverse situation of what we've been talking about today. So I'll see you next week, and cheers.